The stage. Jettisons, have you got your pen? I can see they're going to want autographs after this. Here we go. Song from my father featuring Genesis Smith. Another tune he wants to play is called So What? No, he wants to play Impressions. There's two tunes. They're called So What and Impressions, and they both use the same harmony. As a matter of fact, if it weren't for So What, which came out first, my whole life would have been different for the last 62 or 3 years. Yeah, because it uses two scales. And when I started teaching privately in Seymour, Indiana, just clarinets, saxophones, and flute students, one day a flute student came in. She played flute much better than I did, but she never improvised. And there was a piano in the room, so I said, well, let's try something. I want you to play on this scale. I said, can you play me a D minor scale, no sharps, no flats? She goes, brrr. I said, okay, I'm going to play the piano. Just play a little background. You play whatever you want to play. I didn't use the word jazz, and I didn't use the word improvisation. I said, you just play. So she starts to play while I'm playing the background, and my first thought is, she's playing exactly what she hears in her head. She's thinking it, and she's finding the notes on the flute. And I'm thinking, how in the world can she do this? I'm a senior at Indiana University. I'm around all these jazz people, you know, and my thought is, she doesn't have a big stack of records, you know. She doesn't drink coffee, and she's not grumpy. How in the world could she be playing jazz? And sure enough, she's playing a solo. So we moved the scale up again, up a half step. Boom, she did the same thing. She had the facility on her flute. And I said to myself, this is really amazing. How in the world can she do this? Of course, I'd never asked anybody to do it. That's what I've been trying to do for like 20 years at that point. And she, you know, I've tried to reach her several times. She's probably 70 years old if she's still alive, but she's never returned my calls. And I wanted to thank her for playing so well that day and changing my brain and get it going in this path over here, which is basically saying if you get your instrument under control, you can play the musical ideas in your head. And that happens to be called jazz over the last century or so. But she's never returned my calls. But I'd just like to thank her because that put me on the path for what I've been doing for the last 60 years. Amazing. Just took two scales, but it was Miles Davis that recorded it. And I distinctly remember the day I was moving in. I was probably moving in as a junior or so, whenever that record came out, to a little apartment above a pizza place, and I hated the smell of pizza. And I had my little stool out in the center of this one room I'd rented, and I set my Webcore record player on, and I put on this record that has So What, and that's the first track. And I'm listening to it, and it's only got these two scales, and it's not fast. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's never going to make it. That particular record ended up being the best-selling jazz record ever. So, and when Pizza came along, I didn't like it either. And I said, it'll never make it. It made it. Elvis Presley came out, and I said, well, he's not very talented. He'll never make it. So if you ever hear me say something that's not going to make it, go and borrow money from other people and put it on that item or that product, because it's going to make it big, big, big. All right, here we go. So John Coltrane comes around a couple years later and takes this harmony, ups the tempo, makes a new melody, and plays it. As a matter of fact, Stanley Turrentine on saxophone played this out at IUS years ago, and their outdoor auditorium. Yes, right. And I remember going to Sam's restaurant out there on Charlestown Road and talking to Stanley Turrentine about this particular tune. Okay, here we go. Genesis Smith on Impression. Genesis Smith setting in on impressions. Genesis is a freshman over at the University of Louisville, and I think if you sign up, you can. They have programs, I think, just about every Monday, and you can watch them on your